The average person lives to be 78 years old. That's 938 months. That's 28,560 days. That's 685,440 hours. That's 126,400 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to celebrate every single second. My name's Jayne Leach. I'm a professional network marketer. I'm a business coach. I'm a mentor. I'm the proud leader of the QLS team Global. And I'm also a 7-figure income earner. But life wasn't always like that. I remember my life starting out in forever, much like a lot of people in this room today. My background was in farming, sheep and horses. And whilst I had a great way of life, being outdoors all the time, I was always working hard for somebody else. I don't know if you can all relate to that. Making somebody else wealthy instead of creating something for my future. And then one day, my world changed. I found out that my husband was having an affair with my best friend. And overnight, I lost 2 very important people. I went through a nasty divorce. And the lifestyle that I had was cruelly taken away from me. And I ended up living in a very small, horrible little house, having to work at jobs that I didn't necessarily want to do. Life was tough, but I was tougher. And then one day I had a paradigm shift, one of those moments that changes everything. I remember taking the boys to school. They were only little, 8 and 9. I remember taking the boys to school. And when I got back, it was a wet, miserable day, and the postman had been. And he dropped a pile of post on the floor. And I picked up the brown envelopes, knowing there was nothing good in any of them. The first one was an electricity bill. I didn't even have the money to pay it. The second one was the insurance on the car. I looked out at the window, and I thought, it's not even worth insuring. The third one was a letter from my landlord saying he was putting the rent up. And here's the thing, it wasn't worth what I was paying for it anyway. But it was the fourth one, was the defining moment. The fourth one was a letter from the school saying, would the boys like to go on the school trip? It was £130 per child. And I couldn't afford it. And that was the moment where I had that massive paradigm shift, and I went from being filled with poor old me, feeling sorry for myself, to saying, I'm not going to allow this to happen again. If it is to be, it's up to me. And the importance of that statement is every one of us has a choice to decide how we handle situations in our life, whether we allow them to rule us or we rule them. So I want to talk to you today about what happened when I opened that letter. Because I decided that my life wasn't going to stay the same. I decided I was going to do something different. And it was at that moment that I began to realize that we have choices, that we can actually do whatever we want to do. And I picked up a magazine, and in that magazine I read an article on goal setting. And it had a profound effect on me. Because I'd never really set a really powerful goal in my life, other than my annual two-week vacation. Has anyone ever done that? They planned their holiday in great detail, down to how much money they've got to spend, where they're going to go, the things they're going to do, but they've not even thought about where they want to be in the next 5 years. And that's where I was in my life. But for a lot of us, we're conditioned to believe that we're only worth so much, worthy of so much. And I think that's the trap I was stuck in at that moment. So when we consider goal setting, you need to understand that your desire is the thing that's going to move you from where you are to where you want to be. Now, I want to share a story with you about desire, because it's desire that's going to move you all now when you leave this room. When I left my husband, I packed a bag, I took the kids and left. It was a hard time. I left with no money, no real future. He said to me, "I have no respect for you and you'll never amount to anything." Now remember I said, tough times never last, but tough people do. And that hurt me. And for 18 months I believed it. I believed that to be true. Anybody watch the film Pretty Woman? You know when she goes into the shop looking a bit of a scruff bag, no one would take her seriously. And then she goes back in looking like a beautiful chick and everyone took her really seriously. And she said, "Big mistake, big mistake." Well, let me tell you something about desire. Desire needs to fuel you in the belly. Desire needs to make you focus. Desire needs to create a passion, a power around you where you are steely determined. And when my husband said that to me, and he cut me off from all money and left me with the 2 children to bring up, I had a strong desire. And that strong desire was to earn more in a month than he earned in a year, and then to tell him to swivel on it. And the second goal was to give my kids the very, very best education I could do. And I didn't know how I was going to do that initially. And then I remember when I had this vision of this goal, and I hadn't found forever. But isn't it interesting once you begin to put something out there, these positive vibes, you put it out to the universe, how things rearrange. And people and circumstances change. People come into your life who you never dreamt you'd meet. And once I put that goal out there without any idea how I was going to achieve it, 2 things happened. First of all, I met John, and he can't be here today, and he sends his apologies. And secondly, we met forever, and there was my vehicle. There was my vehicle. You see, if you have a desire, you need a vehicle. And if you hold your desire in one hand and hold on to it tight, and you put the other hand up and that's forever, unless you bring the desire and the vehicle together, nothing happens. You can have all the desire in the world, but if you don't have a way to realize it, the desire just stays a dream. So I want to ask you, how deep is your desire? Have you really taken the time to identify what's really important to you? What you'll sacrifice for? What you'll grow and develop for? What you'll change for? What you'll work hard for? And I mean real soul searching. Not just, I want a new car, I want a new house, yeah, I want a nice check. Those are material things. I'm talking about the inner stuff that makes you who you are, that defines you as a person. Once you've taken the time to identify what it is that's so important to you, then you need to focus and believe that your goal is achievable. You know, for so many people, I believe they don't write their goals down because they don't believe in them. And that's because you haven't internalized them. You know, my dad has a saying, he's an old farmer. I tell you something, he's not any old farmer. Yesterday, he came in quite quietly, said, "Hi." I said, "How you doing, Dad?" He said, "I didn't want to interfere, I know you're busy." He said, but I thought I'd just tell you I've done 5,000 cases. It's like, he's 78 years old, he's not worked his business for 6 years, and he's just smashed 5,000 cases. Not bad for a farmer, hey? But you've got to believe your goal is achievable. And in order for you to believe your goal is achievable, you've got to change your thinking. And you've heard that a lot this afternoon from the people that have walked on this stage before me. You've got to start believing. And you've got to act as if. You've got to act as if. You know, I'm a professional network marketer. Maybe you all need to write the word professional down. Circle it, highlight it, color it. I take my profession very seriously. I'm not in this to have a go. I'm not in this to see if it will work. I'm in forever, forever. It becomes a way of life. And when you change your mindset, you begin to believe in your goals. It's the way you think that determines what you achieve. Be mindful of that. It's fine, no problem. Write your goals down. Something magic happens when you take something from your head that inspires you, that motivates you, that moves you, that you're sacrificed for. Something magic happens when you write it down. But don't just write it on a scrap of paper. Get yourself a beautiful journal, something that's tactile that you could hold, that you keep with you at all times, and make that journal your masterpiece. Make that journal your blank canvas that you can write anything that you want down. There are no limitations, only the ones you impose upon yourself. Don't let anything hold you back. Write it down. You know what's really interesting? The other day I was going through some papers in the office, and I found the very first ever goals that I wrote down. What was quite amazing is every single one of them we achieved bar one. And the one that we didn't achieve, well, maybe I wasn't a very big thinker back then. I'd put down that I wanted a brand new Suzuki Vitara Jeep. Well, I was a farmer, and I needed a new Jeep. I didn't get it. But I did get a nice blue sexy Mercedes. So write your goals down. And this time of the year right now is when you should be doing it. You should be looking at what you want to achieve next year. You should be looking at what you're prepared to work for. And then if you really want to embellish on the goals, I suggest you take the written word and turn it into visual images. The visual images stimulate the mind, stimulate the brain, create that emotional connection with what it is that you're prepared to work for. So a good starting point, once you've written your goals down, is to determine the starting point. And what's really interesting is that most people determine their starting point based on their failures, what they haven't achieved in the past. Well, I can't achieve that because I've never achieved something in the past. Ladies and gentlemen, leave the past in the past. We can't influence it. We can't change it. We can't do anything with it. We can learn from it, take the good stuff forward, and leave the rest in the past. If I had worried about what my husband has said to me, you'll never amount to much, I'd still be living a life of quiet desperation, rather than living a life of abundance, which I'm eternally grateful for today. So the past is the past. Right now, and the future is where we have control. So when you determine your starting point, what you need to do is you need to look at what you want to achieve in 2016. There's a great starting point. And I want you to imagine that this is the December Success Day 2016. We're all sitting here together. I want you to imagine just for a moment what your life looks like. What position are you on the plan? What size is your check? Where are you living? Where are you traveling? Where are you eating? Where are you shopping? Where are your children going to school? Are you on the way to achieving things that are important to you? Now, once you've identified where you want to be this time next year, you then work your plan backwards. And you split your year into 4 quarters. You work your plan backwards to the last quarter, to the 3rd quarter, to the 2nd quarter, and to January, February, March. And I can promise you what you do today and for the rest of this month will determine how you start in your 1st quarter. And how you start in your 1st quarter will determine where you are at the end of the year next year. And this is why I say that the goal-setting exercise, that the writing things down, that having that emotional connection is so, so important. Because if you don't know where you want to be, how do you know when to start? But more importantly, how do you know what to do on a daily basis? I see a lot of people running around like headless chickens doing a lot, but they're not productive because they don't know what they need to do every day to end a good week, to end a good month, to end a good quarter, to end a good year. So be mindful of your starting point. Now, once you've identified what it is you want, really think why you want it. Sometimes I see people working for goals that give them 5 minutes of glory, and that's it. Think about more long term. Think about why next year is important to you for the next 5 years. Think about the structure you'll build next year that will give you a sound, solid platform to maybe go into 2017 structured for chairman's bonus level 1+2 or level 2. Do it right, and it will be there forever. Cut corners, and it won't. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And that's some really good advice I can give you. Once you've identified your goal, your dominant goal, I want you to surround it with all the reasons why it has to happen. One reason isn't enough. All the reasons why it has to happen. When we were developing our beautiful barn in the countryside, I didn't just say, I want a barn. I knew the detail. I knew the kind of kitchen. I knew I wanted an Aga. I knew I wanted hand-carved oak beams. I knew I wanted the very best fixtures and fittings. I knew I wanted a sound system built throughout the whole house. I knew I wanted land and a lake and a long, crunchy gravel drive. It's the detail that makes the difference. I want you to think about something when you're looking at the detail. And that is, the best years of your life still lie ahead of you. The happiest moments are still yet to come. The highest income you'll ever earn is still out there. The future is only going to get bigger and bigger if you implement all I coach you. So your deadlines are really, really important. You heard Cora talk about stats. Stats are so, so important. If you don't know how your activity yields a result, you'll never know what you've got to do on a daily basis. In our first full year in Forever, we spoke to over 1,500 people. We had over 500 meaningful conversations. We had 186 one-to-ones. From those 186 one-to-ones, we recruited 33 people. You go, wait a minute, you spoke to 1,550 and you only recruited 33? Doesn't sound too healthy. Shall I let you into a secret? From those 33 people we recruited came our first £42,000 worth of royalty income. Now think about it. Now think about it. Do you know your stats? Do you know how to measure your activity? Do you know what you need to do on a daily basis and then get it done and let go of the outcome? Once you know your stats, be totally committed to them, come what may. This is not about giving it a go. We committed to speaking to 5 people every single day, come what may. I remember one miserable wet night. And just to let you know, when we started in Forever, there were no nice, snazzy mobile phones. There was no internet. There was no Facebook. I know you think I'm really old, but I was only 8 when I started. Okay, so... But when we first started, we didn't have any of this. We had to go and talk to people. That's novel, isn't it? We actually had to open our mouths and engage in conversation. And I remember one wet, miserable night, John and I came home. The kids were in bed, only little. We went to bed. I looked at John. He looked at me. He said, "What?" I said, "How many people have you spoken to today?" He said, "Honestly?" I said, "Honestly." He said, 4. I said, "Get up." He went, "What?" He said, "It's midnight." I said, "John, get up." I said, "You need to go speak to somebody." He said, "It's midnight." I said, "You need to go speak to somebody." So he got his clothes on. He got in the car. He went down to an all-night service station. Now, I don't want to offend anybody if there's anybody in the room that works in an all-night service station. And it doesn't mean any of you in this room, it excludes anybody in this room has ever done it. But sometimes the people that work in all-night service stations, they're kind of not bothered, are they really? Really? And John went up and it was closed. You had to look through the little flap. You couldn't open the door. And he went up and he knocked on the flap and he bent down. He said, "Hello." He didn't want any petrol, but he bought a pint of milk just to make it look better. He said, "I don't suppose you'd be interested in a business opportunity, would you?" And the guy went, "No, mate." He said, "Never mind. I've just done my 5. Good night." And he came home. Now, my point is, we measured activity. And the compound effect kicks in when you don't do what you're supposed to do. I haven't got time to train it today, but I do a fab little training based on what happens if you miss one person a day for 3 months. The impact it has on your income is scary. So know your stats, know how many people you need to talk to, and then go to work. Listen, you need to identify what might potentially stop you achieving your goals. And this is really important because a lot of people set goals, feel full of excitement, feel full of energy, they're going to do it, everything is possible, and then suddenly the fear kicks in, the doubt kicks in. Now, listen, we're all real. We've all had our fears. We've all had our doubts. But we cannot allow them to stop us having an amazing year next year. So I want you all to do something for me, maybe when you get home tonight and tomorrow, is maybe take a piece of paper and write down with honesty. Because if you want to be successful, you have to have honesty. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest about your actions, about your reasons, about your goals. No one can help you if you're honest. Sit down and say, what might be holding me back? What might be stopping me playing full out? Networking as if my life depended on it. What might that be? For me, in the early days, it was fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of people laughing at me. Fear of other people's opinions. Fear of failure. I'll share a story with you. This is how close my fear came to me leaving Forever. When I first started, we lived in a little tiny village with probably about a couple of hundred people who live in it. We kind of all knew each other. Everybody socialized together. It was a nice thing, nice place to be, nice place to bring up kids. And I remember getting my box home, putting it on the kitchen table, and I was so excited. But I had the what ifs, can I do it? The thoughts that everybody have. But my goals and my dreams were big. I was prepared to go to work for them. And I took my box everywhere. I'd go and see my friend. I'd put the box on the kitchen table and say, nothing. Probably thinking, she's a 7-figure income earner and she said nothing? I said nothing until they said, what's in the box? Then they got it, the whole lot, with the passion and the energy and the vigor and the excitement. Because people buy that before they buy anything. And I went round to a few friends in the village, and they were all so supportive. They bought some product. They wished me good luck. They said they'd support me. And then I went to who I thought was a very dear friend. She lived in a beautiful big farmhouse, kids in private school, nice cars on the driveway. You know, kind of got a nice life, maybe the one I was aspiring to. I went in, I put my box on the table. She quickly said, what's in the box? I showed her all the products. She said, Jayne, they look amazing. Leave the brochure with me. Wait till my husband comes home, and then you know what? We'll order some from you tomorrow. I was so excited. I went home and I told John, and he was excited for me, and I was just on a high. You all know that feeling, right, when everything's going so well. The next day, I took the kids to school, and on the way back, I stopped in the village shop. And as I stopped in the village shop, the girl that owned the shop said, what have you done to upset Fern? I said, what? I haven't done anything. She said, Fern's been around all of us, Jayne, and told us not to talk to you. That what you're doing is wrong. You've joined a cult. You're doing something weird. Don't use the products. Don't do this. Don't do that. And I was devastated, floored. My excitement, which had been so high, was on the floor, and all my insecurities kicked in. And I went home, and I sat in the kitchen, and I thought, they're right. What am I doing? What am I doing? What do I know about running a business and Allo and networking? What do I know? And for that day, I quit. I quit. And when John came home, he said, what's the matter, babes? I said, oh, you know, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Maybe it's not right for us. And he just looked at me and he said, you're made of tougher stuff than that. I believe in you. And sometimes that's all we need. Someone to say, I believe in you. You're amazing. I left it. I didn't think about her. 4 months later, nice blue Mercedes arrived on the drive. My Mercedes. I'd never had a Mercedes before. When they delivered it on the low loader, I literally looked at it for 2 days. I sat in it, and you know what? It had electric windows. My little Jeep that I ran my farming business with, I had to pick the winder off the floor, plug it into the door, and wind. It was full of sheep, you know what, in the boot. Bit of old horse tack chucked in there, a few dogs, you know what it was like. And suddenly there was a Mercedes. It had a better sound system in it than I had in the house. Had new leather. Oh, the smell of new leather. Isn't it amazing? Anyway, John came home from work. He said, Jayne, get in the car. I said, why? Where are we going? He said, get in the car. So I got in the car. We drove out of our drive and we turned left. I thought, going for a spin. And as we turned left, we went out to the village, and he turned right into Norman and Fern's house. I said, no, John, no, we don't need to go in here. He said, be quiet. Now, I don't often do as I'm told, but on that occasion, I thought, I'm going to be quiet. And as we drove up their drive to the turning circle on their house, they were sat outside in the evening sun having a gin and tonic. John drew up, pressed the button on the window, and the window went, shh. John put his head out and he said, you're damn right it doesn't work. Shh. And off we went. Never ever, ever let anybody else steal your dreams. Get rid of fear. Get rid of doubt. You are a unique individual with all the talent and the skill inside you. Believe and go to work. You are in a business that will empower you, nurture you, grow you and develop you. But you start by believing in yourself. You can do it. Identify the knowledge and the skill that you need to learn to be successful. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to say this word again: professional network marketer. That's who I am. That's who you are. And in order to become professional, you need to learn the skills you need to learn to become a professional. The key thing is there's only 8 things that you really, truly need to learn, and then you layer that with personal development. Learn those 8 key skills quickly, and I haven't got time to go through them all today. You need to feed the mind. You need to read for at least 15 minutes a day, and you need to listen for at least 15 minutes a day. Feed the mind. Good information in, good results will come back your way. So consider right now how much time you invest on a daily basis into your personal development. Because if you're not investing in yourself, how can you become the person you need to become to run a massive business? Think about that. You can get lucky or you can get rich, but you can't get both. And I'll tell you something, network marketing will reward you handsomely for you learning and becoming the person you need to be, and then passing that information on to others. Some people think that our industry is about finding a couple of good people and getting lucky. It's not. Our industry is built one phone call, one text message, one BP, one planning meeting, one manager at a time. And every time you take action on a daily basis, you'll become more and more and more professional. Think about, right now, just to get you started, think about the one skill right now that you may need to work on to become highly successful next year. Identify it and go to work on it. Then you need to identify the people who are going to help and support you. The sad thing is, there are people in your life who will laugh at you, who will tell you it will never work, that you'll never be successful. They'll tell you all the reasons why you can't, you shouldn't, and it won't. Please, even if they're your very best friends, when you're with them, if they don't believe in you in forever, do not talk about the business to them. Because you cannot allow people to pollute what goes on in here. You want to be with people who love you and respect you, who will endorse you and empower you, not those who are hell-bent on pulling you down. And interestingly, when you get involved in network marketing, you rock the equilibrium of your friends circle. You know why? Because you stepped out of the ordinary and you're on a journey to become extraordinary. And people don't like that because you make them look at themselves. And more often than not, they don't have the courage that you have. They don't have the belief that you have. They don't have the desire you have, but they'll blame you for that. Don't allow them to do that. So surround yourself with people who love you and care for you and are going to lift you up and empower you. And be mindful of the way you talk to your children. Empower them from a very early age, because they're our next generation. And as a proud mummy, just give me a proud mummy moment. I was so proud of my boy today. So you need to make a plan and you need to pull it all together. You need to think about the amount of calls and messages you need to do on a daily basis. You need to think about the amount of business presentations you need to hold or attend on a weekly basis. You need to think about your coaching calls and your webinars, your planning meetings, your Skype calls. You need to think about the people who deserve your time in your team. I want you to do me a favor as you go into 2016. And this is a hard one, but maybe you don't have a big team. And that is to look into your team and to stop wasting time with people that don't deserve your time. And you know, sometimes people say to me, Jayne, if you could do anything different, what would you do? And I always say, I would stop working with people that waste my time. If I could have £1 for every person who wasted my time over the years in the early days, I could have done a lot for charity with that. I'd rather you work with 1 or 2 good ones than try and drag 20 or 30 people over the finish line that don't want to be there. As I say, it's easier to give birth than raise the dead. Go out and give birth to some new people. Determine your priorities. Determine your priorities. We get paid for retailing, recruiting, and coaching. And if your activity on a daily basis is not in one of those 3 areas, then you're working in the wrong place. Get off Facebook. Get off it. Sorry, but I'm going to say it. All of those of you who sit on Facebook every day, watching everybody else, watching what everybody else is doing, comparing yourself to everybody else, spamming, which is even worse. You need to stop that one. Sorry, I'm being a bit controversial here, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you know, should I tell you something? Listen to this. I told Nicola this the other day, I have 4 people spam me in Forever Living asking me to join their team last week. What's that all about? That is not how you become a 7-figure income earner. I want you to learn. I want you to learn how to talk to people, to look them in the eye, to have a smile, to say, how are you? Who are you? What do you do? What's important to you? Can I help you? Can I serve you? Not join my team, join my team, join my team, cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. Thank you. I'll speak to anybody, anywhere. In fact, can I share a quick story with you? Oh, I can't. I've got to get off. Can I? Say yes. They want me to share a story. Is it okay? I'll share a story with you. There's a lady in the room today, and I want to share this story. I was in Zimbabwe, as you are. Any Zimbabweans in the room? I was in Zimbabwe working with our amazing team out there just over a year ago now. I want to tell you the power of talking to people. And there I was in Zimbabwe. I'd done a brilliant one-day training. I say it myself, sorry. And we had a great day. And at the end of it, I took a load of my leaders out for supper. And we're sitting in the food lovers market, and there's a lovely little sushi restaurant, I know, in Zimbabwe, a lovely little sushi restaurant at the back. And they were going, oh, Jayne, you know, you make it sound so easy. And I was going, guys, it is easy. I know, but I just can't go and talk to people. I'm going, why not? It's not about you. Take yourself out of the equation. And I was saying, watch and learn. And they went, why? I said, watch. So I looked around the restaurant. It's not big, it's just little. And in the corner were 3 beautiful black ladies. I said, watch and learn. So I went up to them. I said, hey, ladies, how are you? And they went, great. And I said, my name's Jayne, Jayne Leach. Don't forget that name. I said, look, I don't want to interfere too much. I know you're having a nice meal together, but I'm in Zim for the next few days, raising the profile of our company and looking for some really, really good quality people who might be open to taking a look at what I do. Now, you look like 3 serious businesswomen to me. And I said, I'm not going to take any more time. Just give me your phone numbers and I'll give you a quick call and we'll share some information. And we did, and we shared information, and for one of them, they became a customer. The other one I never managed to get to, and the other one I did manage to get in touch with, but not immediately. We sent messages to each other for about 3 or 4 months. And then I was in Singapore, as you are, at the beginning of the year, sent a message to this lovely lady called Zanelli, and I said, hey, Zanelli, where are you? And she said, Jayne, the timing's right. I went, yippee! She said, but I'm not in Zimbabwe now, I'm in the UK. It was like, even better. So we went to meet, and just to cut a long story really, really short, she's in the room today. So wherever she is, rock on, Zimbabwe. I didn't need a mobile phone. I didn't need Facebook. I didn't need any of that. I just go up and have a chat with people. I'm not saying there's not a place for it, there is, but it's not the only way to build a business. So make sure you know what your daily activity is, your weekly activity, your monthly activity, because what you don't do today will bite you in the butt in about 3 or 4 months' time. Okay, I've got to stop now. Visualize your goals. You need to visualize your goals all the time. I can close my eyes and see what it is that I'm prepared to work for. In fact, I don't even need to do that now. My visualization is so sharp, I can see it now while I'm talking to you with my eyes open. I know what it is. I feel it. I touch it. It's real even before it's happened. You need to be able to see that goal every day and have a hunger, a deep down burning desire. I want to just share one thing with you. I've got one more slide, then I'm done. I want to share one thing with you. I visualized that goal of earning more in a month than my ex-husband earned in a year for many days, many long dark nights, many weeks, many months. And finally, the day came when my bonus check arrived, and it was more in a month than my ex-husband earned in a year. It was sweet. And I was so excited. I was ready to send it to him to say, here, sucker, look at that. I rang up my accountant and I said, I've done it. I've achieved the goal. She said, Jayne, don't send it to him. I said, why not? She said, because you are making so much more than he is. He'll come back on you for maintenance. It was kind of bittersweet, but you know what? Big mistake. Big, big mistake to tell me that I'm not worthy and I'll never amount to much. He knows. He knows. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, never, ever, ever give up on your goals and dreams. Make that commitment. Have your plan. Work on your attitude. Become the person you need to become to live the life that you dream of, that you deserve, for you and your family. Build the legacy for our next generations. I am proud to say that as a result of saying yes all those years ago, of not quitting when the going got tough, of spending endless nights on the road, planning, meetings, one-on-ones, sometimes never putting my kids to bed in an evening. I am proud to now say that our team spans more than 50 countries around the world, has over 500,000 FBOs in it, has 2 double diamonds, 4 diamonds, a brand new diamond sapphire in East Africa. Too many to count. And it's not about me. It's about knowing that because of my decision to say yes, to accept the responsibility, to become who I needed to become to live a good life, that decision has impacted on people that I don't even know. You're welcome. And I'll share a little story with you. I was in Malawi. We have a charity in Malawi where we built a school and a water well and built a hospital. And I was out in Malawi a couple of years ago, and a man came up to me and he shook my hand profoundly. He said, "Madam, thank you." I said, "You're welcome, sir." He said, "Madam, thank you." I said, "Sir, you're more than welcome." He said, "Madam, thank you." I said, "Okay, what for?" He said, "You came here a year ago, and I sat quietly in a meeting you did in Lilongwe." I said, "Oh, yes, the one where we had no electric." He said, "Yes, we did a meeting with a candle." I said, "I remember." He said, "Madam, I am a supervisor." I said, "Really?" And he said, "Madam, we have a fridge." That's the power of our business. The decisions you make today, the choices you make today, will impact people's lives in countries you'll never visit, never see, and you will change the lives of them and their children because you're doing the right thing, because you said yes, and because you never gave up on your goals. Thank you so much for being amazing people.